Wilson. But don't worry, Key and Jay Will are here. They are here, even though it is officially a company holiday. The big timers showing up for work, guys. I'm proud of you.
Timers.
The big timers.
If you only knew how I felt about these holidays.
The big timers
There's a few
are
that's
in.
coming up that I certainly will not be a part of.
But Amber,
Yes,
we
I
called
have no
yesterday.
doubt.
We called yesterday. You know, we hung out yesterday. You and I talked. We broke down some games.
Not Jay or not Key, but
No, I was
we.
cooking.
Yes,
Key was
yes.
cooking.
Key was cooking. Jay Will was watching
Overcooking.
his own show all morning, which me and Courtney Cronin appreciated the support. And Jay also called into his own show. So a true big timer, though, not taking any days off. We appreciate you, Jay Will. This is ESPN Radio, which is presented to you by Progressive Insurance. You can always hit us up yourselves on the Dr. Pepper call-in line, 888-STAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. So Rob Ninkovich was just on with us. If you missed that, you can always check out the podcast on the ESPN app. And Jay, I thought you asked him an interesting question, so I want to throw it straight back to you. Are the Vikings more likely to make the Super Bowl or lose in the first round? Before we hear your answer, here was Nick's.
I kind of like the way that they play as far as they've had a lot of one-score games. I think they have the most one-score victories in the league right now. And that is something that in the playoffs, like you have to be able to handle certain situations where every possession that you have the football, you have to either score or have a stop defensively. And, you know, last night, I think it was an entertaining game. I know there's some controversial calls, whatnot, with you know, some of the things that happened. But I think that they probably have a better shot of becoming a team that you got to respect and having a deep playoff run than being one and done in the playoffs.
You see, Amber, I'm with Nick here. I mean, what is it, like 6 or 7 games that have been within 5 points or less? Like, finding a way to win games down in a clutch moment, like there is, my wife and I talk a lot about like scar tissue, right? Like working through scar tissue. And I think a lot of that sometimes is good to work through because you find out in those critical moments, you know, that you guys have the ability to make plays. Plus, I think this is the best storyline that the NFL has. Because right now, everything that's worked against Kirk Cousins, like every primetime game, Amber, where does your brain go to as it relates to Kirk Cousins? Where does it go to?
It goes to that they're not going to win. Because
Exactly.
Kirk is going to fall flat, not rise to the challenge.
It's built up over years with Kirk Cousins, and now you're looking at this team, Justin Jefferson being the best wide receiver in the game. You know, last night, him being double team, triple team, it didn't matter what you threw at him. Kirk Cousins knew where he could throw the ball to when it mattered the most. Just all the pieces, Dalvin Cook, the way they can run the ball, their defense, all the pieces that they have, it's set up for them to answer the bell. The question is, will they do it? I think it's more likely than not.
More likely than not that they're going to answer. But does that mean like Super Bowl? Like it's more likely then that they're going to end up in a Super Bowl than it is getting bounced in the first round?
In the first round, yes.
Okay.
I would say that. Are you leaning towards the opposite way,
Well,
Key?
Key, yeah, where are you?
I'm trying to think in my mind as you guys are talking. I'm trying to think who they can get. Like, what team will they draw?
Well, and they're going to win that division, too.
Yeah, but are they the third? They're going to win the division, so are they the second or the third seed? And who will they draw? Like, the matchup, right? Is San Francisco a better matchup for them than, let's say, the Dallas Cowboys? Like, who do they draw again? I don't think that they're going to the Super Bowl by no stretch of the imagination. I think they can get out of the first round, the wild card round. I think they can get out of that. But when they get to the divisional round, I don't know that they'll get out of that because they'll have to go on the road.
Yeah, so you're kind of with me, Key. Like, you think they can go further than the first round.
Yeah, but further than the first round, the Super Bowl feel like two different things. Like if I made you put your money on which one's more likely, I think I'm going first round for the Vikings because again,
Absolutely.
and I don't know why, like there's just something about this Vikings team, and it's strange because this record at some point I can't ignore it, right? Like they are sitting at 9-2 on the season, and I've been questioning them all season long, but I can't get over, Jay, what happened to them when they played the Dallas Cowboys. The Patriots, sure. Nice win yesterday for the Vikings. Patriots aren't the Cowboys. Like when they played a real opponent here, you saw those cracks.
Well, they played a real. So let me ask you this though, Amber, that you mentioned that, right? They beat Buffalo, whatever that means. Whatever it means. Buffalo gave them the game. But Buffalo struggled against Detroit, right? And so is Buffalo, are we overvaluing Buffalo and undervaluing Minnesota?
I mean, I think it's a fair conversation to have. I do think that Buffalo, in terms of that Detroit game, like you're talking about a really strange week for Buffalo where they're in Detroit playing a game because they're displaced because of the winter storm. Then they go home for like 2 days. They have to come back to Detroit. The Lions have been getting better and better this season, particularly offensively. So you knew that was going to be kind of a tough turnaround for the Bills. A lot of people were calling that a trap game. I give them credit for getting the dub.
Well, I guess if we were going through it, right? Like the 49ers, like have they hit their stride yet? No, right? Can you say that? Is that safe to say? Starting to, right? But starting to. Okay. Like Cowboys, they're starting to hit their stride, right? Like they're ceiling. Like I guess the Eagles, like they've been hitting their stride, they've been on top of it. But I guess when you look at the Vikings, like have they hit their stride yet?
Well, I mean, they've been like kind of like the Eagles, right? Like they've been on top of it. They've been in this stride. But to your point,
do you think
Jay,
there's a higher ceiling for them, Amber?
No, I don't think that
I think they're at their ceiling.
Another level for the Vikings to go to. No, like I think that this is it. And that's the concern because these other teams, I mean, you saw it with the Bengals last season, right? Like getting hot at the right time matters a whole lot when you're talking about a Super Bowl run. And to your point, Jay, there's several other teams out there that now we're starting to see it click, like the Cowboys, and they're getting hot at the right time. It feels like, yes, the Vikings have been consistent, absent that loss to the Cowboys. They've been consistent this season, but it doesn't feel like there's another level for them to take it to when we get to the postseason. And Key, you've got to take it to another level in the postseason.
No, you do. I look at the two losses that they do have. One on the road against Philadelphia, Justin Jefferson erased. Where was he? Nowhere, right? Witness protection. Then I look against the Dallas Cowboys. Where was he at? Witness protection. So you have to say some teams are just bad matchups. If they for some reason draw the right team in the playoffs, that's all that really matters. I mean, and that's the way that I look at it. I'm just trying to think as the time goes on, who is that right fit that for them to get to the divisional round, to get to the NFC Championship game, or if they draw, let's say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are they a better team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Minnesota?
I'll tell you who I don't want to see if I'm Minnesota. I don't want to see Dallas. I mean, 40-3
that's a bad matchup.
40-3 is a tail whooping.
Yeah, but it's a bad matchup for them.
I hear you on the matchup, but I'm saying, like, you know, if we're talking about Super Bowl contending teams, and once again, I think that Minnesota can be this if they hit their stride at the right time, if they get extra hot. But like when you're playing against a team like Dallas that has the potential to get to a Super Bowl as well, you would expect that to be a closer game. Like you lose by 2 touchdowns.
The problem that Minnesota had is they dropped back Kirk Cousins too many times against a defense that sacked him 6 times and harassed him another 16, 17 times.
You have to be ready for that.
That's
like, it's not like you don't know the Cowboys are going to.
You came off a game in which the Cowboys lost because Aaron Jones and companies from the Packers ran the ball. That's all they did.
It's just a bad matchup. Michael Parsons and company is a bad matchup for the front of the Minnesota Vikings, where you could say yesterday, Matt Judon, they kind of neutralized him, and he's not Michael Parsons, but he can still go rush the passer. And they neutralized him, so Kirk Cousins was able to get the time to throw the football, where against the Dallas Cowboys, their entire front didn't give him the opportunity to throw the football.
I don't know, 40-3 at that point in the season last week. I mean, I just with the earlier loss to the Eagles, 24-7, you're like, all right. I mean, the time the Eagles seemed like easily the best team in the NFL, you could let that one go. Everyone's going to drop a game here and there, and that was a more hard-fought game. But 40-3, I mean, the way they got dominated, Jay just mentioned, like we had just seen the recipe for success against that Cowboys defense, run the ball. They weren't able to do anything. I guess in fairness to that Cowboys D, was Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants yesterday on Thanksgiving. This is Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max coming to you live from the Seaport, brought to you by Patron. Perfection starts with Patron. All right, it is the time that you guys have been waiting for. You like money. Let's go ahead and try to give it to you. It's time for this hour's winning word for the KJM $10,000 a day giveaway. When you hear the winning word, you're going to text it to 777-000, and you're entered for the chance to win. We'll do it every weekday from now until the